Welcome! Thanks for tuning in to Last Call Fantasy Football, our first inaugural episode. My name's Kyle. This is Justin. We've been friends for a long time, and we just decided it was time to finally press record. We're freaks about fantasy football. We've been playing fantasy football for a better part of a decade, and it's been something that I've enjoyed for a long time. So finally want to share our knowledge and our experience, but in essence, this show is just about two dudes who love fantasy football. We're not math people. We're not number crunchers. This is a fun-formational type of show. So just news, hanging out, drinking some beer, having a good time talking about fantasy football. So,
yeah.
Well, we just came off of the 2024 NFL Draft. I thought it was a great time. My buddy here came from Tallahassee. I live in Tampa. Drove down here. We decided to just watch the draft, hang out, give our thoughts. So we compiled some notes here, and we'll see how it goes. So, anyhow, Justin, your thoughts on the draft, initial reactions?
I think this is one of the better drafts that we've had in like a really long time. As far as I feel like we always just kind of get a little teased with the wide receivers and running backs going to spots that you really want them to go to. And I think this year we definitely had some exciting picks. I mean, for starters, the top three quarterbacks actually went where they were supposed to, and they're all going to spots where it actually makes sense for them to go to.
Well, for the record, we had a competition on guessing the landing spots of each of the top tier offensive players. I crushed it. I was shooting like 60%. I got Williams right, Daniels right, May right. No one on God's green earth guessed Michael Penix right. I guessed JJ. Justin got Bo Nix. He picked Bo Nix of the Broncos, and I'm a Broncos fan. He's a Colts fan, so pick your biases as you will. But still, I was cool with the pick, but he got that one right. And then 130 picks later, we got next quarterback. So no one guessed that. What else did you get?
I think Marvin Harrison and Caleb Williams. That's it. That's it.
The fucking layups.
I did not bat well.
Well, at least you picked the good spots though. I don't know. I'm excited about these players. So, just to get into it, favorite draft picks, favorite draft spots. That's what we wanted to just go through our initial reactions. Some big ballers went to some big time markets. So, your start with your favorite picks out of the first couple rounds, the fantasy relevant options.
Yeah. For starters, I had Drake May. I thought that was a really good spot for him to go. Obviously, he could have went somewhere more fun, but I mean, the Patriots need a quarterback. Their head coach this year should be fine. I mean, he's been there for a long time. He knows their system. I don't think they're really changing much, so they're just going to bring in a talented arm slinger.
It's just so tough. Drake, he is a talented gunslinger, and he's a big-bodied guy. Can run the ball a little bit. He's tough, physical. New England just sucks.
It's just boring as hell, dude.
And he's the most vanilla quarterback. Like, he's a great player. It's just as far as fun atmosphere in New England and with the options that he has now, we'll see. But
I just think he can really throw the ball. I think when I was watching his tape, I was getting maybe a budget Andrew Luck. That's what it looked like to me when he was he throws it so quick, and I think that's so important in the NFL. That's actually a knock that I have for Jaden Daniels is just it takes so long to get the ball out, and when you have people like Aaron Donald coming after you, you don't have that extra 0.5 seconds to cock your arm back, you know what I mean? So I just really like that he can get it out quick and accurately.
And just the culture in New England, like who else could you see taking that spot into being what New England wants to do, what they have always done? Yeah. They had even when Brady was there, they had like mini Bradys on their roster throughout the whole time he was there. Fucking Garoppolo, Mac Jones, vanilla, like obviously didn't work out. He's trash, but it was just a no-brainer for New England, so I like that one for you.
Yeah. And then at wide receiver, I have Marvin Harrison, which is a no-brainer, but I mean, you see it with Malik Neighbors. A lot of times these wide receivers go to spots like Drake London. Like, they go to spots where it's, damn it, Like, and that wasn't the case this year. He went exactly where everybody wanted him to go to, and the Cardinals need a wide receiver, and he's the best one out there, so I think it's awesome. I'm excited for it.
Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson. Those are the two top options.
Greg who?
Greg Dortch and Michael Wilson. Two young players that didn't, Michael Wilson, I think, second round pick last year or something, but
which he was decent, but
but
he's not Marvin Harrison.
I was gonna say generational guy. They said it was gonna be tough for the Cardinals to move off the spot. If they were gonna move, they would need a haul, and they didn't need to. They had a bunch of other picks in the draft. I thought they did well. We'll get into that. But no brainer, Marvin Harrison, generational prospect, son of a Hall of Famer, and giving Kyler Murray a big-bodied, tough, contested catch, route tactician, number one option. So.
We were watching his tape today, and I mean, you just watch him out there, and it's like, oh, he's already in the NFL.
And he looked like it too.
He looked like he was a 5-year vet in the NFL. So.
Love it.
With my third pick, I have Jonathan Brooks. I didn't really know too much about Jonathan Brooks before the draft, but obviously I did some research when he went that high. And
off the ACL.
Yeah, so there's some issues with that, but I feel like running backs these days, they just come back from the ACL a lot better than they used to. So I'm not really too worried. I mean, the opportunity's there. I mean, who does he have behind him? Chuba and nobody. So
I mean, you take him in the second round, halfway through the second round.
Yeah.
They're committed
for
to
a running back.
Committed to him. Maybe his recovery is going well. I mean, I hope so. He's great contact balance.
He glides. He just glides.
He scoots. Coming from a big time program like Texas, the season they came off of. I'm excited about Jonathan Brooks too. The Panthers, to me, they leave a nasty taste in my mouth because the offense that they put out last year was the worst offense I've ever seen. I think I saw a stat somewhere that said second worst offense in NFL history, mathematically. Points per game, yards per game. That's going to leave a sour taste in your mouth. So when you slap a running back into that situation, is it going to make it that much better? Is he that much of a game changer where the offense is really going to be pushed forward because of him?
Yeah. Well, if you look in the past, though, look at this exact team. You had Christian McCaffrey go there, and he was able to make it work on a terrible team.
Yeah, but even then, the Panthers...
For fantasy, at least.
For fantasy, I suppose. But even then, the McCaffrey Panthers teams were not nearly as bad as this last year's product. And I know they shored up the O-line. They spent some money in the offseason on the O-line. So it could work. And as far as opportunity, he could be a good pick. So he wasn't my favorite running back in the draft. I'm biased, but...
let's get to your picks so we can hear who yours was.
The first one I chose as far as favorite draft selection, not so much as the player himself, but just the situation as a whole. J.J. McCarthy to the Vikings. I can speak for everyone when Kirk Cousins left the Vikings. We all thought about Justin Jefferson and
rest in peace.
Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. What was their outlook going to look like? Because you have the best wide receiver in the NFL who can get it done with backups, but that's all he had on his team at this time. They signed Sam Darnold. They had a hodgepodge of quarterbacks from last year, the Pastronaut, what was his name?
It doesn't matter.
Regardless.
They had a shitty third-string quarterback.
He needed something that either could keep him committed to the team because he's coming up on his contract as well. If they fumble this quarterback situation, he's gone. I don't think that he has such a commitment to Minnesota. He has a commitment to being great. So at least to show a commitment to a quarterback in the first round, trading up to get JJ. He's not my favorite draft prospect at QB, but he's very Brock Purdy-esque. People might hate on the take, but I think he's very game managing. He has the physical tools. He's athletic. He can sling the rock. It's just he maybe in a different system can prove that, but at Michigan he didn't have to. The great defense, great O-line, great run game, and they just came off a natty. So he didn't have to prove that. So
I think he's gonna be able to move the ball. I think that's the most important thing is that I think he's gonna be able to put Justin Jefferson in situations where he's scoring touchdowns, which is most important.
And that's why I think keeping him happy on the team, investing in a solid QB, and trading up to get J.J. McCarthy is a B+ draft pick. From the other positions and draft picks that have been made, I think it's pretty solid. So I also had my boy Keon Coleman for the Bills.
Keon County, baby.
He is such a fun player to watch. As I mentioned before, I'm a Florida State fan, Florida State grad. That's my guy. But he did have some issues disappearing in games. Yes, we lost Jordan Travis, so production went down. The quarterback went down. Backup was less than ideal, so the production came down then. But the physical traits, the physicality, the spectacular catches, the athleticism, the dude has that dog in him. And to go to the Bills, the first pick in the second round, which to me that pick is a first round pick.
Yeah. They would have went first round. They traded down because they could.
They could, and they traded down twice, I believe, off their spot. Yeah, because they traded with the Chiefs out of the last pick, moved back one spot with the Panthers. So I think Keon was the Bills guy, and going into a situation with Josh Allen, a guy who everyone knows Josh Allen, gunslinger. He wants to push the ball down the field and can. And
will.
Keon Coleman is a contested catch monster. He isn't going to be your separator. He's not going to be beating dudes 10 yards down the field for a 60-yard touchdown. He'll make a contested catch, break a couple tackles. That's how he'll get there. And they didn't have a guy like that. I can't think of a receiver on the Bills that has been that archetype for Josh Allen.
Yeah, you could
Gabe Davis,
Gabe Davis, but not really.
But Gabe Davis is not the athlete that Keon Coleman is.
And that's why it didn't work for him.
No. I
mean, that's what they wanted Keon Coleman to be.
Right.
Or that's what they wanted Gabe Davis to be, is Keon Coleman. So
yeah. And at Florida State, they utilized him. They put him in the kick return game, the punt return game. He had several highlights. He had several hundred yards of kick return yards at Florida State as well. Just a supreme athlete.
Yep. It's
clear he was their guy. A- for the Bills. And my final favorite pick is kind of tough, and I can explain why my thought process is the way that it is. Trey Benson to the Cardinals. He was touted as one of the top backs, if not the top back in the draft. And he went to a spot where it's got a multi-year veteran, great fantasy producing asset in James Conner. He's older. He gets hurt, misses multiple games every year. So that's why I kind of slot that in. Trey Benson is a bruiser, long speed.
Fast.
Clocked, I think, the highest miles per hour during the season last year for any backs. I mean, he will get to the edge, and if he gets to the edge, you're not catching him. And it's very rare to have someone that size. He's 6'1", 220.
You know what I just thought about as a comp for him is Kareem Hunt. I kind of like that. Bigger...
Yeah,
faster than they should be for the size that they are.
Yeah, and he's tough too. I mean, like Kareem Hunt, and in the pass game.
Yeah.
Florida State used Trey Benson in the screen game a ton, and great pass catcher, and the contact balance for him and long speed. So just that rare combination of size, speed, agility. Came back from catastrophic knee injury at Oregon to transfer to FSU the past 2 years, and he made a career out of it. So, dude knows how to overcome adversity. He'll be there to fill in for James Conner when he goes out or moves on, and he is joining a dynamic offense in Arizona. So,
yeah. We both think that he's going to end up taking over the position within the year, probably.
Right. I mean,
James Conner's going to get hurt for at least 2 or 3 games, and when he does, Trey Benson's going to come in and ball out. So.
And they'll lessen his load, James Conner. They'll take some carries off because he was the workhorse. What is it? DeMarcado and whoever the hell else was on the field who should not be on the field last year when he went out.
Chase Edmonds. Not last year, but...
Yeah, and those guys just don't get it done when your running back goes out. I mean, the production that the running back room had in Arizona and we're fantasy guys. One guy goes out, you want to find the guy who's going to slot back in to get immediate production, and it was just not there.
They're loading up this year.
They're loading up, so I think it's exciting time for Trey Benson to be with the Cardinals. Future opportunity is great. Maybe not going to be in your lineup week one. He's one of my favorites, but he won't be in my lineup week one if he ends up on my team. And
something happens, but yeah.
I think they really like James Conner. I think it's just it's an insurance plan because they realize how terrible they were in the run game without him. And
they were bad.
Good pick for the Cardinals, and I think great for fantasy moving forward. But those are our favorite picks. Situation, everything all-encompassing. As far as winners and losers of the draft, because some guys got the golden ticket to a Hall of Fame career, and some got banished.
Some sit behind Kirk Cousins
for the entire duration of his rookie contract. But I digress.
Let me get into it.
Yeah.
So my winners of the draft are Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell. Xavier Worthy is he's going to the Chiefs. I mean, there's not really much more to say than that. I actually think that Adonai Mitchell is the better wide receiver, but for the Chiefs wide receiver archetype, if you will, I think Xavier Worthy is the best pick for them. I don't think you can really get much better than that. He's got the Tyreek Hill quickness, but I actually think that he's more of a multi-dimensional player. Like he's not just quick when you watch him. He has all the abilities. He's a great route runner.
He left some people in the dust on some routes.
And it's not just go routes, which is really common in college football, especially. It's just, but he just ran go routes all the time. But not with him. It was actually a lot of slants, a lot of cross routes. And
he gets to slot in as a first-round wide receiver pick to the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, there's not much.
He's got Patrick Mahomes. That's the main thing.
Kelsey's getting older.
Yep.
He may have a year or two. I don't see
Rashee Rice.
Rashee Rice after his inevitable suspension. And who else is there? Sky Moore. We've seen that experiment. We know it's not happening.
Yeah.
And
Valdez Scantling.
Xavier Worthy, he fits what Patrick Mahomes has been missing. They didn't have a reliable receiving option, so guess what they did? They hunkered down on defense, and they ran the ball. I mean, Patrick Mahomes wasn't a great fantasy option last year. The second half of the year, he was bottom half fantasy quarterback for the greatest quarterback in the game. So they knew they had some holes, and they filled it with the speedster, route tactician, and borderline wide receiver one at Texas. So,
and I think it's a great pick for Patrick Mahomes as well. Just a lot of times you see these. I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers. The whole time he's in Green Bay, he had what? Devontae Adams. That's it. That's all they brought in for him. So, I mean, back to back.
He was terrible to start his career.
Yeah,
Devontae Adams was not supposed to be
for 1 year.
Devontae Adams.
Yeah, but it's awesome to see because you have Rashee Rice last year, and now you have Xavier Worthy this year, and I think that's awesome for the Chiefs and for Patrick Mahomes for fantasy. So,
yeah, I mean,
and I think it should open up the run game for Pacheco as well.
And the recently re-signed first-round pick of Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, that I don't understand that. I guess we want to have a good backup.
Cheap backup. Knows the system. He's there. He can.
Yeah, he wasn't as good as McKinnon, but whatever. Yeah. McKinnon didn't really help them in the playoffs or anything the last 3 years. But yeah. All right, and then Adonai Mitchell, as Kyle said, I am a Colts fan, so it's a little biased, but like I said, we actually went back and watched tape, and Adonai Mitchell was a lot more of a dynamic player than I thought he was. 6'2", 215, I think, something like that. And when you watch him, you're like, no way he's that big because of how quick he moves. I mean, he's just flying down the field and catching everything in sight. So I think he is going to slot in pretty well. I mean, the Colts do have Alec Pierce and Josh Downs and Michael Pittman, but to be completely honest, I think he's going to take Alec Pierce's spot. He'll kind of slot in perfectly there where you have Michael Pittman, who's, I would say, like the Michael Thomas of the team.
Yeah,
Possession
guy.
Big downfield catches sometimes, but
that's not his game.
No.
And they need someone who has that athleticism, the playmaking ability. They have the status quo. Now they're looking to take it over the top, and they got Anthony Richardson, who could use as many weapons as possible. He not a project quarterback, but he needs some help. And you invested the number 4 pick last year into him. Let him ride. The defense was solid last year. If they can shore up a few things on the with the DBs, but
we did pick 2 safeties back to back. So
exactly, and so invest in your assets, and I like the pick. It's funny you picked both Texas wide receivers.
I actually didn't even realize it until we were already recording. I was like, oh, funny.
There's worse players to put your stamp on as winners because
they
were legit. Texas is a great team this year. I like it.
Yeah, I mean, they made the playoffs, so crazy. All right, and then my losers are Michael Penix and Blake Corum. I think the Penix can speak for itself. It just really doesn't make sense. We were actually watching tape of him, too.
He's a great player.
He's so good. He's so good. And now he has to sit behind Kirk Cousins, who is also really good. So, I mean, rest in peace, Michael Penix. He might as well have been the one to get hit with the garbage truck.
The GM's explanation for the pick, it's an interesting one because they essentially what he said is they don't plan on being able to pick that low in the future because they're setting their team up to win now, and they understand that Kirk is their quarterback for 4 years. Well, 3 to 4 years, he said, and if something happens in between, Penix is the best option that you're ever going to get at that time. And they understand how valuable the quarterback position is. So he can slot in, he can develop, and is their quarterback of the future. So,
Well,
the timing is just off because the contract length...
He hasn't even played for him yet. That's the issue. He hasn't even cemented his role on the team. And now
the GM came out and said, he's our quarterback. Kirk Cousins is our quarterback.
Yeah, until he doesn't look so hot coming off the ACL or the Achilles, actually.
And you know how it goes.
People start speaking and chirping.
Every time a high-profile quarterback comes onto a team via trade, draft, and the starter sneezes the wrong way.
Dude, they were talking about Trey Lance last year at the beginning of the season. Talking about, let's move on from Dak and see what Trey Lance has got. And then Dak goes on to almost have an MVP season.
And so they're bringing on that animosity to the team. But
for no reason.
That's for the Falcons. For fantasy purposes,
Well, that's what sucks is, if he had gone to the Raiders, now you're giving Devontae Adams some more hope, and that's why he's a loser. That's why that's a losing pick here is because...
And he gets to play. You can play Michael Penix in your fantasy team. You will not be able to play him for the duration of the season unless Cousins goes down or, like I mentioned, the crowd starts chirping in if Kirk starts sucking and they want Penix. But by then, he'll just be a waiver wire ad. So really unfortunate for a prime draft spot and quarterback to go to. But
and then you got Blake Corum was my other loser, and he goes to the Rams. It's not the end of the world because I don't think that he's going to pose that much of a threat to Kyren Williams, but
it's tough.
I feel like they're almost kind of similar players, and that's where it's weird to me. Is if it was they brought in Braylon Allen, then I wouldn't have really been too stressed about it. But the fact that they bring in Blake Corum, who's also a dynamic, speedy guy, it's why? I mean, and Kyren Williams wasn't a high draft pick to begin with, so that's what's scary. Is okay.
So you use your day 2 pick to grab a running back, which Sean McVay wants to run the ball.
Yeah.
So
a 3rd round pick for a running back is high, and that's what they took. 3rd round, 19th pick. So
it's tough to know what does that do to Kyron Williams and his draft stock this upcoming year. He was what did he finish, running back 2, something like that. He was incredible.
Yeah, and if he wouldn't have been hurt, I mean,
who knows what could happen. He's great. We know that the Sean McVay Rams running back is something that you want, but now they have a healthy guy who's coming off a great season, and they just committed a day 2 pick to a touchdown monster at Michigan. So it muddies up the waters. A loser for Blake Corum because he doesn't come into a starting role.
Yep.
And what's his name?
Kyron
Williams. He could become a value in drafts this coming season because he'll drop down, or he gets supplanted after a while.
I think
because they don't have the investment to him.
I think Blake Corum's going to have to prove himself in camp, and there's going to have to be a lot of talk before he's really going to be a threat. So I think it's kind of a wait and see type of thing. But that is Jim Harbaugh. So,
I know. We'll see. But
he is biased. So he might slot him right in. Who knows?
Jim Harbaugh is the coach of the Chargers.
Other LA team.
I don't know how much decision making he has for the Rams.
I was thinking Michigan. I was like, yeah, Jim Harbaugh, LA. No. Okay, well,
I gotcha.
Either way, not good.
My winners, they're kind of fun. I picked 2 fun receivers. I like both of them. I think they should have been flip-flopped with their draft positions, but Ladd McConkey and Ricky Pearsall. So, Ladd McConkey to the Chargers. Obviously, we knew the Chargers lost Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. They lost their entire wide receiver production. We got Quentin Johnston, Josh Palmer, and Pokey Wilson, I think, are the only 3 other receivers on the roster. They need someone.
Bad.
Jim Harbaugh coming in, first-year coach. He knows he needs to supply his, franchise quarterback some weapons. And Ladd McConkey is elite in zone. He is from a high pedigree at Georgia. He was the go-to guy. He had a weird history there to where he kind of last year wasn't as good as his previous year, but still he had injuries and whatnot. You could see it was there. He was Carson Beck's go-to receiver. Georgia won some games with defense, but he was just always open, and with Keenan Allen gone, they need a route runner. They need a possession guy, and he's going to provide a consistency to the offense and be an option for fantasy because he is going to be the only guy there. Quentin Johnston to be determined. I personally think he'll be a little bit better this year. He may not become the monster first-round draft pick that they hoped, but there's opportunity there.
Yeah, I think he can slot in, and hopefully he can kind of fill that Mike Williams slot a little.
He's just going to have opportunity. They don't have anything. And a great quarterback. And so I think it's a seamless transition from the 2 teams.
For them to move on from both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, I mean, the GM's not stupid. They know that, when you have a young quarterback like that, every year you have to go all in and win now.
Yeah.
You have to be thinking with that mindset. So I think Quentin Johnston could be a lot better than he was last year.
But the opportunity is there for Ladd McConkey, and I like the pick. So Ricky Pearsall, Florida, he's pretty good. I like Slick Rick. He has a cockiness to him. He knows he's the best receiver on the field when he's out there. He is an elite athlete. You watch his tape. He doesn't have elite long speed. He's quick, don't get me wrong, but his athleticism, great hands. He's set to be a new weapon for Kyle Shanahan in the 49ers. I mean, we watched a highlight of him taking an end around to the house, getting the edge, and it's like, well,
49ers.
I can see him running that exact same play and scoring 6 in San Francisco. So I like Slick Rick for San Francisco. There's rumbles, we know, for Brandon Ayuk or Debo, if they're going to move on, whatnot. Giving Brock Purdy another weapon in a dynamic offense like that. It is a muddied fantasy option type of team, there's playmakers all over the field. But I have a feeling with Debo and Ayuk and the not animosity, but the uncertainty there for opportunity and who's even going to be on the team. I think they're being proactive with that, and they want to keep the train rolling with this a sweet athlete like Rick. So
yeah, I think it's great for Brock Purdy as well. I mean, the more wide receivers he has, the more points he can put up. So hopefully he's a better fantasy option this upcoming year than he was last year, and last year he's pretty damn good. So
I know, and I've slept on him every year he's been a starter, and every time there's an opportunity, if he's sitting on your waiver wire, which most likely he was at some point during the last 2 years, he was an option where I'm like, but the proof is in the pudding with him. So just continuing to shore up that, adding another solid QB option, helping add another solid QB option in the fantasy landscape is always a plus. So, losers, my favorite receiver in the class, I think, as far as playmaking ability, in Malik Neighbors, the death sentence in New York, and Xavier Legette, the death sentence in Carolina. Both of these loser situations come from quarterback situation. Daniel Jones just signed the monster deal last year to cement himself there for at least the next couple years. They don't have any prolific passing options as well. So he has the opportunity. It's not that the opportunity is bad there. It's just the Giants have not been able to figure out how to create a fantasy relevant receiver, no matter how hard they've tried. And they have tried. The past 3 drafts, they've added receivers. And we'll see.
Yeah.
Damn. So Malik Neighbors, he's an elite receiver, helped win Jaden Daniels a Heisman. Would not have been able to do it without him. Most productive receiver this year, yardage wise, and he's just a lightning quick playmaker. You know, always open, get the ball in his hands, he'll make magic happen. He's tough too. So that's not my beef with the loserness of his pick. It's
he's like Drake London. I mean, hopefully Drake London is good this year, but in the past he's been pretty lackluster. I mean, he was coming in he was supposed to be the Marvin Harrison, the Jamar Chase, and I don't even know if he's had 1,000 receiving yards in the first 2 seasons he's been on the team. So
yeah,
I mean that's probably what's in store for Neighbors, to be honest, unless they do something at quarterback or unless
I could see
Daniel
him
Jones has a breakthrough,
like a Terry McLaurin type, where he'll still be good. Terry McLaurin has had 1,000 yards each the last 4 years. Does it feel like he was a top option for fantasy?
Nope.
No, because he's getting you not many touchdowns because the offense isn't good, and he'll be a volume play because he's great. He'll be on the field. He'll be starting, and he's talented. So a few breaks will go his way, but the offense isn't good, and the situation with Daniel Jones is interesting to say the least. And like I mentioned, Xavier Legette, my final loser. Very similar situation. The quarterback situation is the offense is not good, not projected to be good. Things might change, but he has to have the opportunity to be a fantasy asset. And
he's no Neighbors.
He has no Neighbors. He is a freak athlete who can make some crazy catches. He's got good hands, but
like we were saying, he jumps a lot when he doesn't have to for the ball. He cannot catch on the run to save his life. Every time he catches the ball, he stumbles or falls. I mean,
unless the ball is perfectly in stride with no contact, he was going down, which it didn't make any sense to me. He was jumping when he didn't have to jump. But he's an interesting prospect because he had a great year last year in the SEC after not doing anything the previous 3 years. So he gives Bryce Young a weapon, one like he's never had. He's a unique type of player. So my outlook for a first round pick, it's towards the bottom of the barrel of opportunity. But
Yeah, I think you could have taken a few. I think Keon Coleman, Lad McConkey, Jalen Polk, Adonai Mitchell. I think they all should have probably gone above him, especially just with what he's put on tape. I mean, honestly, the tape didn't even look that insane. I just think that he's a freak of nature, and that's why he got drafted so highly. And it worked out for DK Metcalf, and I think that's kind of what made him go so high. I think before DK Metcalf he wouldn't have, but now that all that's changed because it worked out for him. So
yeah,
yeah,
interesting drafts. I guess we can close out. Those are some of our main points just from sitting here, hanging out for the weekends, just watching the draft.
I wanted to do a little game before we go.
Yeah, hit me.
All right. You got Neighbors, Worthy, Coleman, and McConkey.
Neighbors, Worthy, Coleman.
Neighbors,
McConkey.
Worthy.
Okay.
Who are you picking in the 7th round of redraft?
In the 7th round.
Yep.
Neighbors.
You're
Worthy.
not going to be able to get one in the next
Neighbors.
round.
Neighbors won't be there in the 7th round.
You don't think so?
No.
You think he's going before the 7th round?
Yeah. He'll be a 5th round pick for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, people are in love with the prospects, and honestly, I think he can be worth a 5th round pick.
For sure.
He can be. I think you might be drafting towards his ceiling there. So I don't think he'll be there in the 7th. But what'd you say? You said Neighbors, Worthy,
Coleman,
McConkey.
Yep.
Those are tough because they all have.
Because who do you want on your actual fantasy team? You know what I mean? Like, I know we're talking about, they're all good, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, when it comes down to it, he's on your fantasy team. You want somebody who's going to be good from day one and have the opportunity, skills.
I think this point in time, Keon Coleman's probably the best fantasy wide receiver pick out of those for the draft season. As things are right now,
Yeah.
Worthy has a crowded room, not wide receiver wise, but as far as
He's got Travis Kelce there.
and
Rashee Rice. Which Rashee Rice is only going to be suspended for like 2 or 3 games.
Rashee Rice is a good player, and he didn't come onto the scene till the end of the year. I think they take their time with their rookies in Kansas City.
Which is good.
So I don't think that the Bills can afford to not have Keon Coleman on the field and make him the wide receiver one. They don't.
Yeah.
Curtis Samuel got paid some money, but you're not winning football games with just Curtis Samuel. I know they got the tight ends.
The same
there.
about Lad McConkey as well, though.
Yeah, it was between.
I guess who do you like more at quarterback, though? You know, I think I like Josh Allen a little bit more than I like Justin Herbert.
It's tough between Keon Coleman and Lad McConkey, between who I would want. I think just the type of player that Keon Coleman is, as far as upside and fantasy.
Yeah.
That's why I think the situation for Lad McConkey is better. I think Lad McConkey comes into the best fantasy wide receiver position.
I think he starts off the best.
Yeah, he'll be in the starting lineup week 1.
I think he's going to be kind of similar to Puka Nacua. Maybe not with the production that Puka had, but like just coming in and being
have
good
the opportunity
for
that.
Yeah, the opportunity. I think similar skill set where it's like when you watch him, he just doesn't look like anything special, but he just gets it done. Like he's just where he needs to be.
Right.
So when you talk about a quarterback that can extend plays like Justin Herbert, I mean, perfect player for that.
And that's what
when the play breaks down, he's going to be there.
That if I had to rank them, I'll put Keon at 1, Lad McConkey at 2, probably Xavier Worthy than Malik Neighbors, which really sucks because I just think it matters so much in fantasy more about the situation than the talent. Because I think Malik Neighbors is the best.
They're all really talented.
He's the bottom of those 4 names, and he's the best one. In a vacuum, he's the best player out of all of those, by far. So that sucks. But
I mean, all these players are the best player on their college team. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And now they have to be the best player of their NFL team, and that's where it comes down to situation. It's where you look at quarterbacks, and where they get drafted matters a lot.
Exactly. So, yeah, I like the game, and we'll be comparing picks all throughout the off season and seeing what free agency does and what things look like going into camp. Things will change, but this was our draft reactions. My final reaction, as I mentioned, Broncos fan, Bo Nix and Troy Franklin coming to my team with after the Russell Wilson experience. So I think there's some options there if the connection continues for Troy Franklin. He was supposed to be a higher pick. A speedy receiver out of Oregon. They played together. That's the biggest thing. They have that rapport. They know how to push each other. I think Bo Nix and what's his name?
Tez Johnson?
No. Bo Nix and Troy Franklin had 14
You
passing.
just said his name,
I
so
know.
I was like, I don't know.
14 passing and receiving touchdowns between the two of them last year. He's the highest productive receiver in Oregon history, and if you know anything about Oregon college football, they put up some numbers there on offense. And if Troy Franklin can come into Denver and make a name for himself, even though he fell in the draft, there's opportunity there. Cortland Sutton will probably be gone next year. Marvin Mims is a good player, but kind of a one-trick pony. So just something to think about. But I'm excited as a Broncos fan. I know Justin, as a Colts fan, is excited for Adonai Mitchell and Laiatu Latu.
Laiatu.
So we got in for a fun season this year.
Yeah, I'm excited.
But yeah, this was a great first episode. Had fun chatting about some things, and it was the last call for fantasy football.
Yeah, and if you don't know much about Jalen Polk, go look up some tape. Goodbye.
Bye.
Nice.